Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. I'm your announcer today, SirAshtown, and we are here live at Game Kastle's Lorcana 1K in Austin, Texas. Thank y'all so much for joining us over here on Twitch. If you've missed any of today's rounds, they will be live over on YouTube later on this week for you to watch at your leisure. We're here in round 6 of 6 for today's tournament. We have over 36 players here in today's tournament, and we will be cutting into top 8 just after this. Both these players, 3-2, having an option of possibly playing in to win to get into the top. Both these players trying their best right here in round 6 to try to make it into the final top 8. We want to thank everyone who came out today at Game Kastle in Austin for the Lorcana 1K. There's over 36 players and really just a lot of great players that have been to Disney Lorcana challenges, who have top 64'd, or just those who have done well at other 1Ks here across Texas. Really great to see the player field here today and to see just the competitive and social aspects of Lorcana merge together here for today's tournament. We see Strafees piloting a Emerald Steel list, piloting against and playing against Micah, also piloting a Emerald Steel list. We saw Aaron, aka Lorcana Bro, earlier today, I believe in round 3, maybe 4, also piloting an Emerald Steel list. And there are some pretty strong, viable cards in these matchups, one of them being Morph that we just saw inked by Micah. Really, Morph it's kind of scary to think about because there are so many great shift targets in this set, between Clarabelle to Beast to really just so many of them. So here we are with a turn 1 Diablo. Saw our opponent's hand Strafees. And goodness, there's that shift Mother Gothel. Again, a lot of great targets from Morph. And really, Morph is one of those cards, just the further we get in Lorcana, the better Morph is gonna get. Able to have any character shift on top of it. That Mother Gothel, one of the new additions to this list, we got to see it here in set 5. We've seen, I think, 2 new from this set, Mother Gothels, but this one in particular, it is a 6-drop, quest for 2, for 6. It shifts for 4, and it says that when you play this character, each opponent chooses one of their characters and returns that card to their hand. The world is dark. Micah with a turn to Mr. Smee. No Diablo. Strafees here with his own Morph. Now again, some of the great targets that we see for these shifts, one of them being this Clarabelle, shift for 5. At the beginning of your turn, if chosen opponent has more cards in their hand than you may draw until you have the same number. Seeing a lot of play here in set 5. Great card to get you back into the game. Gives you more resources. There's the shift Robin Hood that some people play. Great option, even with Strafees here already having a Robin Hood on board. Micah, seeing the danger in having a Morph out, opts to use that Let the Storm Rage on, dealing 2 damage to the Morph. I think it's a great line. It just gets rid of an unknown threat because you have no idea what Strafees may be doing with that Morph. You may have just given the inability for your opponent now to shift, now if they don't have that Morph on the board. Decides to ink the Mother Gothel, may have been the Morph target that he wanted, or the shift target that he wanted. Instead is able now to shift with a Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood, able to challenge cleanly into that Mr. Smee, gaining 2 lore. Robin Hood, really a great card, one that we've seen since set 3, allows you to gain 2 lore when you challenge a character, and when it's banished, you draw a card if it's in a challenge. Getting another peek into Strafees' hands. No cards for Micah to take with that Ursula, but does get a good peek at what his opponent's playing. We do see the Beast. That would have been a great shift target on a morph. Talk about a really scary line where you can maybe go from morph into a Beast. Ursula, of course, being able to look at your opponent's hand and discarding a song, not finding one in Strafees' hands. And we've seen a lot of these lists, especially when we saw Aaron play earlier today, wanting to use morph, wanting to shift into stronger characters that you need in order to challenge what your opponent's doing. And it's really in response to what they're doing, what you see before you. Micah having his own Beast in his hand. We can see it right there. Decides to ink it, having a second one. Really a strong card here in this situation. Really, whoever has the most cards in hands really has the most options, especially in the mirror like this, to really try to control what their opponent's doing. Strafees able to use his Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood to sing We Don't Talk About Bruno, returning that Beast to hand, gets to discard something. Looks like it was that Strength of a Raging Fire. And that's interesting because now we know that Strafees drew into that We Don't Talk About Bruno, because Micah did not see it last turn when he played that Ursula to peek at his hand. So what a great top deck by Strafees in order to take care of that Beast that Micah may have used to draw on a lot of cards. Now Strafees having his own Beast on the board. Really the tides are changing here as Strafees is establishing himself. But everything now taking a damage off of this Tinkerbell. No longer able to draw extra cards off of the Beast. It can be kind of hard to deal with when you don't have cards in your hand like Let the Storm Rage On to deal damage, but this Tinkerbell, really a great timing for it, allowing Micah to deal that one damage needed to prevent Strafees from drawing more. Talk about a back and forth and really responding to each other in such a way that helps you try to maintain a board state and get ahead. Strafees having a pretty good state right here. I mean, 2 5-drops that can sing. The Diablo is going to allow him to draw extra cards. As long as Strafees can kind of protect this Diablo for a little while, he can hopefully continue to draw more and more off of it. A third Beast from Micah now, one having been played. I'm sorry, this is his second one. One got inked, one got, we don't talked about Bruno, and he was able to recast it. Now, Tinkerbell makes this a little tricky because Strafees isn't going to be able to really quest cleanly with this Diablo without it possibly being challenged by that Tinkerbell and maybe banishing and dealing 2 damage to it. Strafees having his own Tinkerbell. Again, we want to thank you all so much for joining us here today at 20 Lore Pro. We're here at Game Kastle in Austin, Texas for the Lorcana 1K. We're here in round 6 of 6. Strafees playing a Let the Storm Rage On to take care of Micah's Tinkerbell. Kind of getting rid of a threat for that Diablo. We are here in game 1 of round 6. The mirror match, Emerald Steel Strafees versus Micah. I'm your announcer today, SirAshtown, and behind the scenes is Luxac. We really appreciate y'all tuning in today and for enjoying today's coverage. If you enjoy this round and any of the others that you may have missed and you want to watch them again, Head on over to 20 Lore Pro's YouTube where you can watch those later on this week. And there's a Clarabelle from Micah. Trigger will happen at the end of Micah's turn. Draw up to the same number of cards, meaning that that Diablo that has been helping Strafees not going to help Micah draw that many. Only thing is that with that Diablo on the board, now Strafees is going to also be able to draw more cards. And it looks like a May ability. I think he opted not to, having no cards in his hand, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Strafees has 5 to 6 cards in his hand, really just having a lot of resources in both his Inkwell and in his hand. Really can just get away as he needs to in this game. Able to take out Micah's Beast using a Let the Storm Rage On sung by Diablo. Strafees at this point really having established board state. Micah with no cards in hand. Oh, he does have cards. Looks like he did draw. That was my mistake earlier. He must have drawn off of the Clarabelle. And he's got 2 songs in hand. Let the Storm Rage On, and we don't talk about Bruno. Yeah, tough choice on Strafees' side. He can take that song in the form of we don't talk about Bruno, making sure that his characters are protected. But the Let the Storm Rage On would be able then to come back and get rid of that Diablo very quickly, getting rid of a lot of the card draw that Strafees has been able to establish. Again, Strafees playing a Diablo, a Clarabelle, an Ursula, and I think a Robin Hood. I mean, talk about the board state. Was able to play so many cards that turn. Up to 12. Lots of characters to quest. Even if Micah here is able to take out that Diablo using the Let the Storm Rage On, it's going to be tough, needing to deal with so many of Strafees' characters. Maybe a grab here might be a great card. Don't know if Micah is playing grab. Some of these lists have opted not to. Again, we want to thank so much Game Kastle for allowing us to come here today in Austin, Texas to stream their Lorcana 1K. If you are ever in the Austin area and would like to play Lorcana or are looking for a store, head on over to GameKastle.com to find out more. And there is game 1. Micah looking at the board state, seeing that Strafees is at 12, seeing all the characters on the board, not a lot of cards in hand, saying they just can't come back from all the card draw that Strafees was able to do off of not only his Beast, but mainly that Diablo. Really doing so much work for Strafees during this mirror match. Congratulations to Strafees here in round 6 for getting game 1. We're playing best of 3 here in today's tournament. We have over 36 players, and after today's round here at round 6, we will be going into top 8, so stay tuned for that later on today. If you miss any of today's rounds, you can always head on over to 20 Lore Pro's YouTube later on this week, where we'll have all of those for you to view at your leisure. We want to thank GFQ Underground for those wonderful playmats that you see up on the screen. Those playmats were made by GFQ Underground, and you can purchase yours today if you'd like them over at 20lorepro/merch. Head on over to 20lore.pro where you can buy yours today. We want to thank Nexus, a great supporter of 20Lore Pro. They are a gaming store in the Waco area. They play Magic the Gathering, Lorcana, Pokemon, and they have esports. Head on over to Nexus to find out more if you're in the Waco, Texas area. If you're looking for more ideas on what types of decks to play as you're possibly getting ready for DLC Vegas or even Seattle, head on over to 20Lore Pro's Discord. We currently have over 5,000 members where we have tons of deck discussions and just general chat about competitive Lorcana. If you're not a member of 20Lore Pro, head on over to 20lore.pro/discord today. Just really excited to see some of the competition that we've seen here today. I would say pretty broad variety because we've seen Emerald Steel. This is, I think, the second time on camera that we've seen Emerald Steel. I know it's a mirror, but still, we've seen Emerald Steel, Amber Ruby, Amethyst Ruby, Sapphire Ruby. I've heard of some of the Emerald Amethyst decks rolling around. We saw Blurple. Lots of variety in today's tournament, and so that's something that's great about coming out to locals like this, is that sometimes you may not see all of the complete meta decks that you see maybe when you're going to some of the DLCs. However, this can really show you what people are playing against, are thinking about playing as they're testing to get ready for those larger events. So here we are going into round 6, game 2. Strafees took game 1 against Micah. Micah's starting us off here with a Robin Hood. Pretty scary to think about because we know that Champion of Sherwood is going to come out eventually. And here is the turn 1 Diablo from Strafees. Let's take a look at Micah's hand. We see a Diablo, an Ursula, and there's a Grab Your Sword. So Micah is playing it. Makes sense. Never want to assume that someone's playing those cards, but it makes sense to play it, especially when that card is so well used, especially against players who are using lots of low drop characters like Emerald Steel, some of the Amber Steel Song, lots of decks that Grab Your Swords is great against. So here's an Ursula, again, and take another peek at Strafees' hand. Oh my goodness, there's some strong cards in the fact that there's a Diablo that can shift if Strafees had an action. However, we see that he did not. So we're not going to be able to see that shift Diablo play on turn 2. One of the downsides of Diablo's shift ability is that you need to be able to discard an action card. But there's Strafees with a wonderful top deck in the form of Let the Storm Rage On, an action that does allow him to be able to shift this Diablo on turn 2. And here's Strafees using one of those Ursulas that we saw. He had 2 of them. Strafees may be thinking about taking that grab over the Let the Storm Rage On. It's a tough choice because you know the Let the Storm Rage On is a guaranteed 2 damage to Diablo. But the shift Robin Hood would give him the option. I don't think he has the shift Robin Hood in Micah's hand. It was a little bit off screen there. But getting rid of Let the Storm Rage On guarantees that Diablo's there, and it requires Micah to top deck it if he didn't have it. There's Micah with his own Diablo. However, it will come into play in normal, not being shifted. Strafees this game has had 2 really, I would say, game-changing top decks. This one being this Diablo. He was able to top deck the Let the Storm Rage On, the action he needed in order to shift this turn. During the first game, he top decked, I want to say, a song. We don't talk about Bruno. And it was game changing at the time. And so Strafees has had a lot of luck on his side during this match. Does decide to ink a Mother Gothel. And there's that Pete. Interesting play here only because we know that Micah has a grab your swords. And so when Micah is able to play it on his turn 5, this may have been a great play the turn beforehand, knowing that grabs would just be delayed by one more turn. Decides to run out Pete though, maybe preventing any other actions from taking out Diablo. Still a very viable option because now it guarantees that this Diablo is going to be able to stick around unless Micah is willing to sacrifice his own Diablo, which honestly isn't the worst case scenario for Strafees, who has already gained some card advantage over Micah due to the Diablo being out. Tough choice from Micah, who now has to decide that very scenario. Does he want to allow Strafees to continue to gain card resources in the form of more cards in his hand, or quest with his own Diablo, that way he can draw during Strafees' turn? And it looks like he opts for exactly that, questing with his Diablo. That's a tough choice because I think with having grab your swords in your hand, it's okay knowing that you're going to let your opponent do some of that drawing, because whatever he plays, you're probably going to get to be able to grab. And if not, hopefully you're drawing with your Diablo in order to find those answers that you need. Well, we're here at round 6, game 2. Strafees took game 1. We're here at Game Kastle's Lorcana 1K in Austin, Texas. There's over 36 players here at today's tournament, and we're really excited to be here. And even for this mirror match in Emerald Steel, it's still great to see how the decision making and the lines really matter, especially in the mirrors. And we're seeing a lot of card draw, and Strafees, kind of like I was talking about earlier, do you allow your opponent to continue to have their Diablo? In Strafees' case, he's already been drawing quite a bit off of his Diablo. He's already gone up on his own resources. Why allow your opponent to continue? Decides to go ahead and trade with the Diablos. Also, Micah does have a grab your swords in hand, so he knows that that Diablo is eventually going to get removed, and so opting to rather use it against his opponent before it's taken out by a grab. Again, thank y'all so much for joining us over on Twitch. We really appreciate y'all and your support. It really means so much to us as we continue to travel around and to try to bring you the latest in competitive Lorcana. I'm hoping too that there is a Ruby Amethyst Mufasa into the finals or top 8. That'd be really great to see, especially with Tupaloop. He's a close friend of mine. And Adam over there on the Twitch chat, thank you so much. We appreciate you and just being able here to watch. And we just try to give the best coverage that we can for the tournaments. And so thank you all so much for your support. So the board state has changed a little bit. Those Petes on both sides are gone. A shifted Clarabelle, and here is a Beast on Strafees' side of the board. Is going to be able to help him to draw at the start of his turn. Micah, I believe, having 1 card to Strafees 2, would be able at the end of his turn to draw up to 2 due to Clarabelle's ability. And Micah, doing just that, decides to quest, going up to 7 to Strafees 3. Is able to draw at the end of his turn up to 2. And this Clarabelle being a 5/6, that's a pretty strong body on a character that is questing for 2 every turn. This beast being a 3/5, not a great challenger until it has damage, but really, this is now a back and forth game between the card advantage, as Strafees is going to be able to see more cards at the start of his turn than Mike is going to, who instead will see them at the end of his turn. This is a tough position for Micah to be in, as hopefully his draws really reflect the cards that he wants to see to try to deal some damage to that beast. Tinkerbell here coming into play. That in and of itself is a good challenger in the sense that Clarabelle now has 1 damage on it. Tinkerbell, when it does damage when it does challenge and bash a character, it can deal 2 damage to an opposing character, meaning that anything else that Michael plays, if it's not stronger than 2, then it could be taken out by a Tinkerbell. Makes his plays a little trickier and his quests a little different. There's a Let the Storm Rage On from Micah's hand. We see it right there. Not a bad choice at all for the beast. It would turn off your ability, though, to be able to draw cards. Although Micah is at 3 cards, so he is already more cards in hand than Strafees, meaning that he wouldn't be able to really draw anyways. It looks like we saw a Clarabelle didn't quest. I missed a little bit of it. The camera skipped. I'm so sorry. We do see a champion of Sherwood on Micah's side of the board, along with that beast having been removed. Strafees challenging in with Tinkerbell. Is going to be able to remove Clarabelle like we talked about and then deal that 2 damage over there on Robin Hood. Now I want to say that's a Cove. This is a card that has been floating around some of these lists. It kind of gives these characters some extra damage. There's that hidden code for you up on the screen. It is a great location in the sense that it costs 1 to move a character over to it, but it gives them 1 power, 1 toughness. Micah is able to use that Grab Your Swords to clean up the board nicely here. All those characters not having been moved quite onto the Cove yet enough for them to be able to handle that damage from Grab Your Swords, sung in by that Robin Hood, champion of Sherwood. Michael's able to follow up that great play with a Diablo now. Strafees responding in kind. We'll see if Micah isn't able to use this Robin Hood maybe to have a follow-up play or even just a quest. Not a bad choice. Oh, and we don't talk about Bruno. Decides to cast it with his ink. A clean turn because it's going to allow Micah the ability to quest with Robin Hood and with Diablo safely. And there goes Strafees' Diablo. Oh, Strafees with his Diablo could have been moved onto the Cove and challenged in nicely to Micah to prevent him from having card advantage in hand, but we don't talk about Bruno able to take it away, leaving an unknown card in Strafees' hand. There are 2. They were on Cove, is what Twitch chat is telling me. So that Grab Your Swords really did a lot of work. Now this card is pretty fun in this aerial Sonic Warrior. Whenever you play a song, you can deal 2. You can pay 2 and deal 3 damage to chosen character. On a board state like this, pretty good, especially when you see that Diablo facing down the other side of the board. And with an 8, just toughness. I mean, that is a tough character to try to banish. Micah going up to 13 is draw along with Strafees. Strafees able to play out a Morph and a Diablo, taking a peek at Micah's hand. Does decide to challenge in and finish off that Robin Hood, taking the 3 damage. Maybe looking for a song to hopefully deal some damage to that Diablo. Every turn is going to give Micah more and more options as he continues to draw. Looks like he's got 4 cards in hand. Again, we want to thank everyone for joining us here today as we are live here with 20 Lore Pro at Game Kastle's Lorcana 1K. We're here in round 6 of 6 before we cut the top 8. Really excited to see these two competitors as Micah plays a Let the Storm Rage on to banish a Morph before it can become something even stronger than itself. Is able to clean up the Sonic Warrior Aerial with the We Don't Talk About Bruno. Strafees on his turn, drawing and getting rid of the Beast using the Zeus. We're looking at Micah's 14 to Strafees 6. Another Clarabelle from Micah's side of the board. Again, at this point in the game, not a lot of cards in Strafees' hand, but represents a big quester in the fact that it can quest for 2. Strafees seeing that Clarabelle along with the Diablo that has been questing every turn with Evasive, sees what's going on, and there goes game 2 here in round 6. We are 1-1. Strafees piloting an Emerald Steel list versus the mirror match here with Micah also piloting an Emerald Steel match. We are 1-1 going into game 3 here in round 6. Congratulations to Micah on that round. I think one thing that really helped Micah pull ahead was those Diablo draws, just being able to maintain his Diablo on the board longer than his opponent, giving him the ability to just have that card advantage in hand and find the answers needed in order to really take this game away. Well, thank y'all so much again for being here with us today at 20 Lore Pro. If you missed any of today's rounds and you'd like to rewatch any of them that you've seen, head on over to 20 Lore Pro's YouTube, where they will be posted later on this week. We want to thank Game Kastle here in Austin, Texas for hosting today's Lorcana 1K. If you're in the Austin, Texas area and are looking for a game store, whether it be Warhammer 40K, trading card games like Lorcana, Magic the Gathering, Flesh and Blood, head on over to gamekastle.com to find out more. We want to thank our producer behind the scenes, Luxac. He works closely hand in hand with Nexus, a gaming store in Waco, Texas. If you're looking for a place to play trading card games like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, or Lorcana, and you enjoy esports, head on over to Nexus to find out more. We want to thank GFQ Underground for those beautiful playmats that you see there on the screen before you. Those mats just have that great sparkle across the mat that you can see in the fairies' dust. Really great to see these playmats. Really love the color. It just pops so well. If you like these playmats and you want one for yourself, head on over to 20 Lore Pro, our merch page, where you can get yours today. If you're looking for a playmat and have some custom art, or just want a different mat for your gaming needs, head on over to GFQ Underground. And again, we just want to thank all these competitors here today for this tournament, allowing us to come and to stream and to feature them on all of these matches. It's really great if it's volunteer to play on the feature match, because sometimes it can be a little nerve-wracking to play on camera. I know myself, it can make me nervous, and your plays, you gotta make them a little sharper. So we really appreciate Strafees and Micah for being willing to play on camera. If you're in the Texas area and you see us live at any of the 20 Lore Pro events, feel free to come by and say hi. Well, we're excited to bring this tournament to you, especially as we're getting ready for DLC Vegas. We have so many friends who are really testing and getting their lists ready by playtesting and just getting ready for what they're going to face at DLC Vegas. So it's really great to be able to come here today at Game Kastle to cover this competitive event for you in preparations for that. Last week, I had the pleasure of interviewing 3 winners from the Star City Games convention last weekend. There was 2 1Ks and a 2K, and I was able to interview the winners, and those interviews will go live over on 20 Lore Pro's YouTube later on this week before Friday. So head on over there to watch those interviews to listen to players like Kendall, aka No I'm Not, talk about his Ruby Amethyst list, or Christian, aka CJ Gambit, as he played a amazing Amber Emerald list. Well, here we are going off into Game 3 here in Round 6. Micah versus Strafees. Strafees able to play a turn 2 morph, and I mean representing a big threat. This could become very quickly a Robin Hood champion, a Sherwood, a beast. It can become any number of characters that you really don't want to see. So taking it out as early as you can means a lot. There is a beast, Tragic Hero, which would be able to shift onto the morph, and Strafees separating those songs for Micah to look at to decide which he'd like to take between the Zeus and the Let the Storm Rage On. Does decide to take a Let the Storm Rage On based on what's in his hand. The Zeus is going to come down a little later, not quite a threat yet. Beast, though, if I'm not mistaken, does shift for 3. Let's do a double check on that. It does shift for 3, so Strafees during his next turn able to shift that beast if he wants to and begin gaining some of that card advantage depending on what Micah has in play. I should say in hand, because who knows if he's got to Let the Storm Rage On or any other damage based cards. We see a Diablo and a Pete, and I do think that is a Let the Storm Rage On the last card on the left in Micah's hand. Could be mistaken. Strafees doing just that, able to shift with the beast on turn 3. What a great shift line on 3. I mean, now he could even sing Along Came Zeus, but not necessarily a need for it at this point. Beast Tragic Hero really being a staple in Steel since set 2. Really a strong card. Lots of options, especially when you have Morph, so I could see it even turns earlier. And there's Micah, able to do some damage to Beast. Again, we want to thank everyone for joining us here today for round 6. We're in game 3 of their Lorcana 1K. Over 36 players here in today's tournament. We've gotten to see some regulars here on the stream, such as the Lorcana Bros, Adrian and Aaron. Really cool to see them, along with Tupaloop, here's close friend of the 20 Lore Pro production team. We're seeing a good mirror match here between Micah and Strafees as both are playing these Petes on turn 3. We want to thank Cruzito Gaming over there in the Twitch chat, another member of the 20 Lore production team, helping out to just give y'all some helpful links as you need them, especially for the 20 Lore Pro Discord and for the merch. Thank you so much for Cruzito Gaming for helping us out. And there is that Along Came Zeus, able to take out that Diablo, which really could have given Micah a lot of just card advantage, trying to get ahead of the game in any way possible, whether it be the board or in hand size. Goodness, there are two more Diablos and Micah's own Along Came Zeus. That represents 3 Diablos. 1 in the banished pile, 2 in Micah's hand. Pete here, being a 3/3, it doesn't allow your opponent to be able to play songs during their turn. I'm sorry, actions, which are normally songs. There's that Pete there on the board for you to see. Whenever you play this character, opponents can't play actions until the start of your next turn. Really helps, especially on creature-based decks, especially when you're expecting to play a lot of Amethyst players who tend to play Be Prepareds or other Steel players who are playing Grab Your Swords. Could even prevent your Amber Steel Song players from casting a whole new world to get ahead. Here's Strafees going up to 3 on the lore on the board and able to play a Beast Tragic Hero. Opts to play the Beast instead of using one of his Diablos. It gets taken care of though by Strafees Along Came Zeus. Not a lot of cards in Strafees' hands. We're getting kind of close to the bottom. Does decide to ink. That may indicate that Strafees has a larger ink character in hand. We'll see if that's maybe like a Tinkerbell or something that requires more, maybe even like 5 to get up to like a Beast or a Clarabelle even. There's one of Micah's Diablos. Going up to 4, questing with the Pete. Does decide to ink the Robin Hood. Not able to play that card in hand, it looks like, yet. Decides to just go ahead and trade in with the piece, not allowing Micah to gain any more small amounts of lore. Micah here very soon going to be able to start drawing multiple cards a turn with Diablos. I think this is a safe play. Only in the sense that with 1 Diablo on the board, if Strafees has a Grab Your Swords, if you double play Diablo out right now, it could take out both of them. Now here's a Clarabelle. This will help Strafees at the end of his turn in order to draw. Looks like he drew 3 off of that Clarabelle, and that is a huge coming back into the game way to catch up in this Clarabelle. Gave him the ability to draw 3, and now has a 5-6 second quest for 2. The only downside right now, which isn't very much of a downside, but this Clarabelle can't challenge directly by itself into the Robin Hood champion Sherwood. Robin Hood now is able to sing. We don't talk about Bruno. We'll see what card he gets. Takes a Strength of a Raging Fire away from Strafees. And it did set Strafees back a turn. If he does want to play out that Clarabelle again, will cost him his entire next turn instead of establishing his board state again. Micah having a second Robin Hood champion of Sherwood. Goes up to 6. Now has that Diablo tapped. Will be able to draw with his opponent. Into I think that's 2 beasts. Micah, the hand of doubles. He had double Diablo. Now possibly double beasts. Thank you all so much for joining us here today at 20 Lore Pro. We're here live at Game Kastle in Austin, Texas. Strafees is deciding to take a peek at Micah's hand before he makes the decision on what to play. I like this move. Lets you think about what you need to do next. He does decide to play out that Clarabelle again. We're so thankful to be here with Game Kastle to stream their Lorcana 1K as they had over 36 players here at today's event. Again, I'm your announcer, SirAshtown, and behind the scenes is Luxac. We just want to thank everyone for coming here and enjoying today's tournament and for watching today's stream. If you missed any of today's rounds, you can always head on over to 20 Lore Pro's YouTube. We'll have all of them live for you over there later on this week. Lots of cards in Micah's hand. That Clarabelle puts Strafees at 5. We're in game 3 of round 6. Before we get to the top 8, really excited to see which of these players can possibly, depending on tiebreakers, get in or have at least the opportunity to get in between the two of them. This has been a close game between the two of them. We saw in game 1 really Strafees just dominate the board and I'd say get a pretty quick victory, but Micah in game 2 was able to come back, really establish himself and establish just great ways to draw cards that Strafees wasn't able to respond to. And here we are in game 3. Micah's 11 to Strafees 2. Both have plenty of cards in their hands. Really trying to decide and hopefully draw into what they can to answer their opponent. Micah here, having that Diablo, has drawn him so many cards. Clarabelle for Strafees' side of the board, drawn him lots of cards. This is really an example of the Emerald Steel mirror match and the drawing that occurs between the two. And really the cards that you need to try to control some of that board state that's happening between grab your swords, or we don't talk about Bruno, and sometimes having to sacrifice your own Diablo to your opponent. That way they don't get ahead of you, even though you're behind. Strafees here, double challenging into the Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood with the Clarabelle and the Diablo. It looks like on Strafees' turn, he played out the Diablo, 2 Robins, and the Clarabelle. That way he'd have the ability to draw up who knows how many cards now, because look at Micah's hand. It's hard to know how many cards are in his hand. It looks like more than 10. At this point, they both just... I mean, they have so many cards to really decide what they want to do. It's going to be hard for either of them to really maintain, I think, a good board state unless you go wide with smaller creatures like Strafees has done with those 2/2s. Not quite enough for you to want to get rid of with a zoo of itself, but maybe a Tinkerbell like we see there in Micah, or grab your swords if Micah does have that too. There's a Pete, making sure that Strafees can't play his own grab or other songs during his turn. Beast here has been able to help Micah draw each turn at the beginning of his turn. This Pete doing great work right here for Micah. Gonna make sure that he's safe from his opponent, from whatever he may be playing. Now we're going to see some double quests, 2 lore characters. Yeah, that's the handshake. We just too much on Micah's side of the board. Characters that can quest for 2. Micah just getting ahead really early on the board in questing. Able to get up to the 20. Strafees here still at 2. Wow, what a great mirror match between the two. Strafees piloting Emerald Steel versus Micah, also piloting Emerald Steel. Congratulations in Game 3 to Micah. We just want to thank both these competitors today for playing here at Game Kastle's Lorcana 1K in Austin, and you, the viewers at home, for joining us here today. That was round 6 of 6 of a 36-player tournament. We will be heading into the top 8, and we will be back here with 20 Lore Pro in just a moment. If you missed any of today's rounds, they will be live later on YouTube for you to view. Thank y'all so much for watching, and we will see y'all here in the top 8 in just a little bit.